So Carl is my science teacher at Newman's College, and I'm the founder
hmm
of Circular. I mean, we made it better for the planet. We've got some tech that we've signed out of James Cook University that takes waste and turns it into energy. So part of the land and sea kind of ranger work that I'd really like to see happen in the region, because it allows our Indigenous people to have a fee for service job. Is that the reparation of mining sites through this ocean seeding project, right? That has both a land and a sea ranger element to it, and also too for the kids who are doing an introduction to environmental science.
Carl, I'm curious to get to know you a little bit better and hear some of the work that you do.
So I'm from the UK, living in Australia now. Teacher of 22 years with an earth science, geology background, chemistry, physics background too. So currently running an elective subject where the students can pick it. So I've got 14 students interested in environmental science. Cross paths with Irene a few times. She flicked a few research papers over. So we've been looking at the ocean iron fertilization research that's been bounding around. And then we were looking at the prospect of maybe getting acid mine water from a local area around here and developing a way of extracting the iron from the acid mine water. So then we read the ARTiMiS research and thought maybe that could be a tool that we could use to monitor the effectiveness of what we're doing. So
We're very interested in having like year 9, 10, 11 students using it. It's designed to be like usable to, all levels of expertise. So um, that's mostly what one of our key objectives are. As far as the biogenic dust research, we're happy to support whichever initiatives you guys are pursuing, but we specifically don't do a ton of work in like ocean enrichment, but very interested in it because it's going to have a huge impact, and we need it to happen 10 years ago. So
I know,
yeah,
I know,
we're doing our best here to help make it happen.
I
yeah,
know. I must sound like a crazy person to some other people, but I'm like, we got 7 years left. We got to go. Are you interested? No. Okay, next. Who's interested? You know what I mean? Like, that is literally my attitude at the moment. And the fact that I reached out to both Ken and Victor, who are on this OIS research out of Germany. My key thing is one of the things that they're looking for is ocean observatories. And if the ARTiMIS could be one of the toolkits in those ocean observatories that we could have maybe in Fiji or in, you know what I mean? Like that they may be able to use the unit for, out in the ocean testing in certain currents, that would be able to, I think, give a lot more in your pocket kind of science research without the need for a big $100 million research boat. And we want to bond and connect desert and saltwater people together, people who live out back and people who live on the coast, because they have a very polarizing view of each other, and working together on a common solution, it just may get country people looking at city coastal folk just a little bit differently, and vice versa, I hope.
how does the system work? Like, what's the general procedure?
Right. So general procedure, we take a water sample that has something we're interested in it, and we put it in a tube right in front of the instrument. It has two intake tubes, like an intake and an outfall tube, that fall right into, whatever your sample container is. It can be as small as, we use like little 1 mil tubes sometimes, all the way up to like, like a big beaker.
Yeah.
So the two tubes go into there, and the instrument is controlled on a screen. There's a computer inside the little box. It's like a tiny computer, Raspberry Pi, so it's like credit card size. But you connect on with a screen and a wireless keyboard, or you connect with like another computer if you have like a Chromebook on the internet or something. But there's a graphical interface that will show you, what the camera sees. You can look at the different light modes to see how the sample looks. Use the graphical interface to control the fluid moving through the sample. And then when you're ready to actually run a sample and collect data, there's just one button you press for, run a sample after you've set up a couple settings. and it just goes and it runs, and you come back, a couple minutes later when it's finished, and rinse it out, just like with a water cup. We'll usually just use a beaker full of water and run the pump just to rinse it out, and that's it, and it's ready for the next sample.
And what kind of accuracy can you get with it? What sort of tolerances do you get?
Usually the maximum density that we look at is about 10 to the 7 particles per mil, and we go down to about 10 to the 3, 10 to the 4 particles per mil. So if it's a really dilute sample, like, from a lake or a stream and there's not a ton of stuff in it, sometimes we have to let it concentrate by, like, having it settle in a settling tube or something. But as long as there's about like 10,000 to 100,000 particles per milliliter, the ability to detect things is pretty efficient. And then from that, the actual accuracy in counting, I have a figure in that paper, but it's pretty close to what we found with the flow cytometer, which we were using as our gold standard. I've also more recently benchmarked it against a FlowCam. If you guys have seen or heard of that, that's one of those big, like, it's a big box, costs $100,000 US or more. Anyways, we found that it was as accurate for classification as the images that were coming from that instrument when we were using our software. And we actually found it was more accurate for biomass quantification than that instrument. And again, that's a 100,000 US instrument, and ours is a fraction of that and more accurate for counting cells. So certainly for your studies, it'll be more than enough. I think for some, like, really, really sensitive scientific studies, it might need to be validated with a secondary. But I think for what you're doing, it's going to be more. It's more than enough for our studies, at least. So
this box is the ARTiMiS device.
Yes.
And here is the monitor. So you can hook up a monitor to the device, and this is the pump that will take in the sample inside, and after taking an image, it will send it back to the sample. So these are the tubes we currently use for the sample runs. And then here is a graphical user interface, and you can have a keyboard and mouse to control it. And from this interface, you can run your samples and check your images and everything. So it's very user friendly.
So mobility, how do we move it around? Do we put it in? Can we drive with it, or is it best to leave it and bring the sample to it?
Yeah, you can drive with it. Yeah, I've taken it in my luggage on an airplane. I just put it in my, like my suitcase, like the roller, like with 2 wheels.
Yeah. Cool.
With the hardback. Yeah, I put it in that. I've moved them like 2 at a time like that. If we have to go to and from the lab, we just put it in the backpack.
Fantastic.
You do have to be kind of careful with it and not like drop it from 3 meters. Yes, but as long as you don't drop it from a large height, it's pretty durable to travel around with.
Fantastic. I've done a bit of research on phytoplankton microscopes, and what you guys have done is filled a real gap in the market, because I've looked at the phytoplankton, res of photos from my business plan writer was a marine biologist, and she said that was the biggest bugbear, is having good phytoplankton imagery. Even in Florida, at the largest, marine sciences space, their imagery was really poor with their phytoplankton microscope. So, and they had an expensive one. So I commend you on identifying such a real blatant gap in the market in phytoplankton, microscopes. Well done.
Thanks. Yeah, we appreciate you saying that. But the gap is not filled, so we have to move and we have to get the things out there. So, because we started this whole thing exactly for that reason, because there was a gap and like we needed the tools, so we might as well just build it, because we can't find one that
love this.
our needs.
That's engineering. That is engineering. It doesn't exist, so we'll make one. Yeah.
Oh, this crack is so delicious, like When you find the people who are on the same trajectory and have done one part of the puzzle, this is why SDG 17, Carl, is just automatic, because we're all running. It's just that we need to look beside who's actually running on the same bandwidth. And phytoplankton is a super, it's such a great story too. It kind of lets the kids know that something microscopic, when it works together, can make this huge impact on climate change. That always, like, even though you're small, when you act together with others, you're really powerful. That's why I really also do love the phytoplankton story, because it is one about mental health and empowerment.
Yeah, and that resonates with us. One of the reasons why we, stick with phytoplankton, and eventually we'll get to other markets, but this is our focus for now, until we solve these problems. So
this is not what we're doing, but how could you maybe adapt this so it could work independently in the ocean? So the stuff that they throw out might actually be useful for you to pick up and run with at a later date,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they, like you said, don't have the preconceived ideas of what is and isn't possible. So, and yeah, I mean, that makes all the difference. Yeah, I don't know how much official university research it would be, but yeah, we could turn it into a really fun project. But yeah, we'll be prepared. So,
which would be a massive score if they know that we've been in touch with people on the other side of the world and some kits been sent over. And like when we sent the email out originally and you got back saying, "I would love to help," we couldn't believe it. So yeah, big thank you all round.
Oh yeah, we're happy and excited. So
I'm grateful that you came back so quickly, but this is what I've been doing. Like, this is Carl's first PhD paper ask, and I'm like, this is what I've done with every single one of these PhD papers. It's like, hey, so I read your biogenic dust paper. Can a high school students do this kind of test and da-da-da-da? Yeah, sure, no problem. And I was like, okay, great, thank you. Like, that was it. Like, these people, scientists, innovators, PhD students, I think you're just so grateful that someone's taken an interest in, however many years of your life, and a percentage of your life that you've invested in it. And then, I love it. I did it when Google Plus was happening and there were books, authors going through Google Plus and their books. And I was like, that's what taught me that muscle. Hey, this chapter in paragraph blah on this page, what is that? I didn't quite understand that. And then it'd just be like this whole collective intelligence talking on Google Plus about it. So that's how I got my gumption just to email and ask, because generosity is, love economy stuff. You know what I mean? It's in education by bucket loads.
Yeah, it's also how scientists work. We work through collaboration.
Yeah, I love it.
Exactly. Yeah. And, not too long ago, I was a high school student trying to go through science, and all of us were, right? And it's very formative, and I wouldn't be doing what I am today if I didn't have, good teachers and fun projects. So, any way to pay that forward, that's why we do what we do, really. So, yeah.
It's a bit hard sometimes to see how this is all going to pan out, but this is the coolest project I've ever been involved in with my teaching. To be doing this with year 10 students just blows me away. And I've got a friend in the UK who's a teacher too, who's my best mate, and we were talking about it, and he couldn't believe we were doing this either. So I think it's a really ambitious project with immense potential if we pull it off. And even if we don't pull it off, the learning and the impact and the awareness it's going to raise along the way is priceless anyway.
Yeah, couldn't say it better.
Thank you, Carl. That was so beautiful. You've made me teary.
Yeah, you stop it now. Stop it now. All right, I'm going to dash. Thanks for your time again, gents. See you Thursday, Irene, and hopefully speak soon to everybody.
All right, speak soon.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Tonight's visualizations out of NASA. So this is 2021 emissions, CO2, orange, biomass burning, red. You can really see like from DC up, the like kind of industrial burning fossil fuels area, and the just year process of it mixing within the atmosphere. Green is going to be kind of the land and the uptake. Blue is the oceans, and like you can see this kind of breathing, like especially in the Amazon, uptaking it during the day, off gassing at night, and just how it's this whole over this course of 2021 emissions, how it really just mix in the CO2 emissions mix in with the atmosphere. It's quite mesmerizing and oddly beautiful. They have the visualizations from like many different angles of the globe. So this is over Asia. But I think this is probably one of my favorites. It's all laid out and you can just really like see the patterns across the flat Earth.